Okay, hey guys, I'm going to use another technique. This one is kind of both a training and a management technique, but what it is forward and backward walking. So I'm going to explain a little bit. What we would do is we're walking forward and say our dog hits that into the leash and starts pulling. One thing that we can do is just do a change in direction. I do cue my dog by just saying this way. And once again, if you are the type of person who wants to use directional cues, you can, but let's just keep it as simple as possible. So once again, if you want to teach directional cues, you could say a backward, forward, left, or right, but once again, I think the standard just generalized this way works just fine. So let's just use that for a purpose. So say we're moving forward, once again, he hits that into the leash. I'm just going to do a change in direction. I'm going to say this way. I am going to put my hand out to kind of direct the dog backwards, and I'm going to start walking in the other direction. I find this works either way. You can either actually change directions and start walking the other direction, or you can backwards walk and actually walk backwards. Just make sure if you do walk backwards, you know your surroundings so that you don't, trip on something. So either way works. It's just, once again, be conscious of where you are. If you're in a place where you're really not familiar with it and you might trip, probably better to actually turn and start walking. But either way, if it works better to just take steps back while still facing the dog, that works fine too. It doesn't matter. I do always cue this way to remind my dog so that they actually hear the auditory cue, so that we're not really doing any jerky situation. What happens if my dog continues to move forward and doesn't move? That would be when I would use my hand with a little treat. I like to hold my hand like this because it helps my dog just learn that when my hand is flat, it's to be followed either way, whether or not there is a treat in it or not. So they get used to kind of hand following either way. So once again, the way I like to hold my treat is like this. It's a big treat. Kind of to show you, probably be actually doing something more like this, which is just chicken, nothing special, nothing, anything. So let's see what this looks like. We can use forward and backward walking as much as possible to prevent our dog from practicing that poor behavior. If our dog is not taking treat, I'd probably move into more of a circling, but honestly, you can use this without treats too, doing the forward and backward. Either way. A variation of it is once we're moving back to give the dog a focal point, such as cueing a hand touch. I really like to do that because sometimes just that break in what the dog is moving forward on allows us to refocus them. And once they can do a cue and take a treat, a lot of times we're kind of on their radar again, and we can actually get their attention. So that's another variation, is once again to actually cue the hand touch once you're walking backwards. I do like to try to take 3 steps back, but once they're getting better at this, you can take as many as you want. When you start off though, I kind of like the idea of backward walking being 3 steps back. And if you need to do a shuffle, a lot of times this works really good to get your dog's attention at the beginning of the walk, where we're doing 3 steps forward, 3 steps back, and then maybe cueing a hand touch at the end. So let's see what it looks like with Romaru. Come here, buddy. Let's go. We're going to go forward, and then we're going to go back. He did it just fine, but let's go forward again. So say he is walking forward. He went in the middle, so we're going to reward that anyway. Good job, buddy. And then I'm going to move back, and I'm going to say, this way. 1, 2, 3. Good. Then why does that work? Because now we have a nice slack leash and it kind of resets them. So usually they don't surge forward immediately again. So we have the opportunity now to kind of redirect him or get him back into a nice loose leash. It's kind of hard to see because he's not actually surging forward. Maybe he will if he sees another truck. So say I'm at the end of my leash. I would be walking forward, and then I'd say, this way. Touch. Good. So that time I did the walk forward, and then we did a backwards 3 steps, and I cued the touch. He did it, which is awesome. So now we're back on his radar. And we knew we can take a treat, so maybe we can do some more training. So let's try it again. I'm going to try to get this more on video where we walk forward this way. So I'm going to go forward. 1, 2, 3, touch. Good. we'll do it again. So we're walking forward, walking forward, walking forward. And then this way. 1, 2, 3, touch. Good. So this might be, once again, this is kind of a good exercise to start off with on your walks to get them used to, just responding to that, to you, to staying with you. And especially if they're kind of antsy at the beginning of a walk, or they're kind of sniffing around, maybe getting a little pulley at the beginning, this may focus them enough that we can actually start our walk in a good way. But it certainly does work as well if your dog actually is surging forward and pulling. We can just do a backwards walk, hopefully get back on their radar. But even if they don't, if they can't take a treat, that's fine. We can do our forward and backward walking as many times as we have to. Once again, I just like to cue that this way, just to make sure that they do get a cue and they're not, they're not resisting. They understand what we're asking them to do. That's why it's also good to practice it, so when we say this way, they understand we're going backwards, and they have a good understanding of what we want. This way. Good. And let me try to show you what it would look like if I just walked backwards as well. So, oh, good boy, and you're seeing his auto middle again. Good job, default. We always like a default, Brahma. This way. 1, 2, 3. Touch. Good. And that would be a good opportunity to go into something else where I'm asking him for something, another cue. Maybe at that point I'll ask him to watch. So, say he just did his hand touch, maybe I would say, watch. Once again, we added another cue right there, also reinforcing kind of our following our hand. So that is forward and backward walking. I hope it made sense in our little video here in our small area. But that is something that you can always use either as a way to manage the dog from preventing bad behavior, or to actually start off where they get on your radar for training. Thanks guys, bye-bye.